This is DJ 745 for World of Reggae in Jamaica, here in the heart of Jamaica. We're in Treadway, St. Catherine's, sitting beside an artist who has done so much for the music over the last 55 years. I want to give a very warm welcome to Mr. Max Romeo.
Yeah, man, good to be a part of it, you know what I mean? World of Reggae is always respected by myself, my family and the world, you know what I mean? It's a pleasure.
I know we have quite a lot of history because, you know, we've been working together for quite a few years. But one question I need to ask you first of all, how's the leaking roof doing at the moment?
The roof doesn't leak again.
Okay.
I get rid of that old house. I'm in a new one now.
What I want to say to you is, this is your story. This is reggae history. We want to do some myth busting because we want the younger generations to know about Max Romeo and what you have contributed to the history of Jamaican music. So that's why we're here today.
Well, I contribute, in my estimation, I've contributed a lot. I was there when the first note was strike for reggae, when we made that transition from rock steady over to reggae. I was in the studio when Bunny Lee and the crew was trying to attempt a change of beat, and we come up with a song named Mama No One Bangarang with Lester Sterling. And that was actually the launching of the whole change of beat from rock steady. Okay. There are other people who say otherwise, but I know better. I was there, you know. Yeah.
Because I know one of the other songs that's almost sometimes claimed as being the first song to have the reggae beat is things like Nanny Goat is sometimes mentioned, and then Tootsies Do the Reggae.
No, those come after Bangarang. Bangarang was the original first, in my estimation, right, okay, first reggae song actually. Okay. We used to call the girls Streggae. Today we call them Sketel, which is disrespectful still. I don't share it, but we used to call them Streggae. So reggae come from the word Streggae. Right. You understand? So that's how it really actually come into existence.
Okay. I mean, you started as a solo artist around about the year 1968, but before that you were in a group called The Emotions with, I believe, Robbie Shakespeare's brother, Lloyd Shakespeare, and Kenneth Knight as well. That's right. What was your first experiences of being within a group setting?
Well, it was really easy because assuming responsibility for two other minds with yours make three, it's not really easy to control. You know, you will have an idea and another guy have an idea. It causes you know, to sort it out, it causes a problem. So it wasn't really, being in a group wasn't really a pleasant situation, but that's where I had my break in the recording business, you know. So as soon as I could shake it, well, like Shakespeare died, Kenneth Knight migrated after a while, and then I, you know, become solo, sing under the name Max Romeo then, you know.
I mean, you grew up in the country. Now, what was it like taking your first footsteps into town, into Kingston, where all the music recordings used to happen? I
was tricked to go to Kingston because I'm a countryman. Yeah. You can't get that out of me. I was born in Alexandria and St. Anne. And my grandmother told me, my mother went to England in 1953, I remember. Okay. And I was living with my grandma, and she couldn't handle the situation financially, so she decided to send me off to my father in Kingston. Okay. I didn't want to go to Kingston, but then they told me that my father have a tree at the back of his yard that pound notes grows on. So pound notes. Wow. We were using pounds at the time. Yeah. So if I want the money, I just pick a pound. So that's how they get me in Kingston. When I wake up the next morning looking for that tree, my father think I was crazy. I said, but that's what they told me. Okay. I said, nah, no tree. Yeah. Yeah, man.
Okay. Now, your name itself, Max Romeo, every reggae artist has a story behind their name. Now, what is the story behind why are you called Max Romeo?
Yeah, that's a funny one. Well, actually, I was talking to a girl one morning, you know, just rapping with her at her gate, and her father left and went to work. And, you know, I didn't realize the time run off so fast. He was back from work, and he saw me standing in the same spot. He said, wait, same spot, same clothes, that mean you go home. So, yeah, what? You're Romeo? And the guys up on the car that start laughing and they start calling me Romeo, so that's how the name. And Bunny Lee now invited me to use the name as an artist name. So I said, okay, Max for Maximum, Romeo for Love, not bad.
Not bad.
So I said, okay.
It seems like talking to a lot of artists, Bunny Lee was quite integral in creating or developing a name for artists.
Yeah, he was very forceful in getting promotion done. You know, a lot of guys at the radio station fear him. You know, so when he comes with a song, they have to play it. You know, and he kind of manipulate them that way. And in so doing, we get the break as well. You know, because he was pleading our cause. He was very, very good in that respect. You know, very good producer and promoter at the time. Yeah.
Now, one of the myths or the stories goes that apparently when Wet Dream was going to be voiced, Bunny Lee actually approached a few other singers, including people like Roy Shirley and Slim Smith, and they refused to voice it. Can you expand on that yourself?
Well, I actually wrote the song.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, but I didn't like the image that it was going to portray. So I actually, you know, at the time was a little apprehensive in doing it. And he actually said to me, look, nobody else wanted to do it. Slim didn't want to do it because he's scared that singing about, you know, explicit sex would tarnish his image. Roy Shirley is a blood and fire man from morning. He said he didn't have nothing to do with it. So I said, all right, Bunny. He said, well, look, if you don't do it, you can't stay around me, you know. I said, all right, boss, I'll do it.
Okay.
So that's how we end up doing the song. Yeah, we went to Studio One to record the song. That's another story.
So one of the things that what I'm sort of reading here is that Bunny Lee kind of said to you, Max Romeo, you must have been, what, 20 years old or something, 18 years old, and there was almost kind of some pressure to say, you have to voice this song.
Well, actually, I was a street kid. I was living in the street. I left my parents home at the age of 14 and living in the street. So I, as a drifter, I drifted amongst Bunny Lee.
Okay.
So it was very important for me at the time to be with him because he's the boss. You know, he can get my record play and things like that. There was no money happening, but I said, look, one of these days the money will come, so I'm going to sit it out, you know.
Right, okay.
I did.
Okay. So off you go to 13 Brentford Road, the home of Studio One Records, and you go to voice that song over the rhythm track which originally Derek Morgan had Hold Your Jack on.
That's right.
Who engineered the session?
Well, we walk in the studio and Mr. Dad was the engineer and he sits there playing a few rhythms and then Bunny called me and he started playing Hold Your Jack rhythm and said, go voice the tune. So I went on the mic and said, every night me go to sleep, me have wet dream. Mr. Dad said, no, Bunny Lee, I will get them full artists. Me just record them type of thing then in my studio in a Rasta. So Bunny said, Mr. Dad, me rent this studio from you, Jackson. You can't tell me what for record, so if you don't want to deal with it, back off and we call the printer. The printer was, at the time, was Herald T. So Herald T came and balanced the studio. I proved him wrong, because all the great songs that Studio One did, none of them top Wet Dream, 26 weeks in the British chart, sliding up and down, you know, so I proved him wrong.
I think you proved the whole world wrong with that song, right?
That's right, you know, it was what you said, it was an eye-opener. Because England was so, I don't know how to describe it, you know, people were afraid to speak their mind, you know, a kid couldn't say the word wet dream, you know, it sounds, you know, you get punished for it.
Like a taboo subject.
Yeah.
Right.
So here I come making a song on the subject. It was played once on the radio, and it didn't get the second play because there was a Jamaican radio guy at BBC at the time. I don't remember what his name was.
Freeman?
I don't remember. But he called Tony Blackburn attention to the song and said, what are you playing? You hear what the guy is saying? This is about sex, explicit and thing. And you could hear when Tony Blackburn break the record and said, rubbish, and threw it away. But the skinheads was onto it. Right. Because they get a chance now to let out what you know, their sexual talk and feelings and things like that. So they embrace it. And until today they embrace it. It's not on my profile anymore, but anywhere I perform where skinheads are, they demand it. My band is always rehearse it and ready to play. But we just don't play it unless it's being asked for.
Okay. So what I'm trying to understand now is that the year was 1968. How did that song go from Kingston, Jamaica, and become so popular in the UK. What do you think was the reason for that particular song to gain the attraction of the people in the UK?
I tell the truth, I didn't know. I didn't even have the idea that a little street kid like me would be going to England. Out of the blue, Bunny Lee come to me one day and said, "You take off for England, you know, and then wife do a tour." I said, "Yeah, me? Do a tour? How?" He said, "Yeah, the wife come up there and think." Well, I said, "All right." Well, me and my father wasn't have a good rapport, so I was to get him to sign the paper for me to get the visa. He refused. So Buddy Lee said, "What's your father's name?" I said, "Irving Smith." So I just put Irving Smith on the bloody paper. I went to the embassy, bam, stamped my visa, and I was in England, you know.
What year can you remember did you first step into the UK?
I remember fairly well. It was the 20th of June, 1969. Never forget.
Summer then?
It was a summer.
Right, okay. What's your first impressions of the UK?
I don't know. I mean, it was a little strange being a black guy amongst much white people. That was my first shock, you know. How do I handle this? You know, these people are speaking Queen's language and I'm speaking patois. They are white and I'm black. But after associating, I realized, hey, what are you talking about? It's people. This is UK. Jamaica is a part of UK. You understand? We at the time, it was 1962 that they had the independence, but before we had the British flag, you know, and the British money was spending on things like that. So I fit in quite well, you know. I overcome the phobia and fit in. Yeah.
I know that during that tour, quite a few of the venues actually banned the song, right?
Yeah. I wasn't supposed to sing it. I played Royal Albert Hall. Some members of the royal family was there. I think Prince Charles was a young boy then. He was there, Princess Anne and so forth. So I was told by the council not to perform that song because the royal kids will be in the box. Okay, here I am, finished my thing, coming off the stage. The crowd get upset. Hey, everybody comes to hear Wet Dream and I'm not singing it. So we hear coming from the royal box, "We want Wet Dream, we want Wet Dream." So some guys, two tall guys, just lift me up and put me back on the stage and I just did the song and tear down the place. It's happened again in Wolverhampton. It was this guy, Enoch Powell was the MP there and he was strictly against black people. I was forbidden to sing the song there. But the hall was full of skinheads. I had to sing it. I had to sing it.
I mean, back then, there was an emerging Jamaican community already established in the UK, particularly in London, and you must have had a chance to maybe explore some of the things like the blues dances and the shubeens and things whilst you were there.
Yeah, I get the last of the Roaring Twenties. You know, I've been to Palma, have a club called Club 31 that used to where I hang out most of the time. You know, Dingwalls, places like those, Burton's, I can't remember, you know. Yeah, I used to hang out a lot. I used to drink. You know, I used to drink teacher's Scotch whiskey straight from the bottle. Okay. You know, and you know, I had fun. I painted England red between 1969 to 71.
I mean, when you were like hanging out at some of these blues dances, could you see any similarities between the dancehall vibes and sound system vibes in Jamaica as opposed to the UK?
In them times, we rub on the woman's front. Now we rub on her ass. So it's two different, it's the same music, but two different approach to dancing, you know. Right. And that's the only difference I saw then. But other than that, it's the same shit happening, you know.
I mean, 1971 was when you released your debut LP, which was titled A Dream. How did you feel that the debut LP was from a marketing point of view?
I didn't, you know, I didn't have I didn't put a lot of trust in it because, you know, I was up against rock and roll, I was up against R&B and all these things. So, you know, and then again, it's ethnic music that the door to progress is just slightly ajar. So, you know, and there's hundreds of people trying to get through that little crevice to get in. So I actually said to myself, look, I'm just doing it for doing it. If it happens, it happens. If it don't, it don't. But give thanks to Jehovah the Almighty, it happened, you know.
Around that time, 1971, you also recorded Let the Power Fall on I for Derek Morgan's Hop Records. That's a song that Michael Manley really embraced as part of his election campaign. What's your thoughts? What do you have to say about that?
Well, that was it was a good thing. It was a good venture because Michael Manley had a good dream for Jamaica, and he was trying to establish certain things, and I was impressed. So therefore, they asked me if they can use the song as a protest song for the party, and I gave them the okay because there wasn't anything happening for me then, you know. So. And I just not did that. I also went and did the shows and the bandwagon for them, you know, all over the island and things like that. So, you know, it was a good buzz for that song. That's all it was, a good buzz, because I'm not political, you know. I was just what it was a bandwagon, and I was riding it. That's what it was about, you know. Yeah, but I love the policies of Michael Manley. Sorry he left when he did, you know. Yeah.
Did you not feel fearful of having an affiliation to a certain political side back then? Because I know that, you know, even now, Jamaica can be a very, very volatile place in terms of elections and JLP and PNP. So did you not feel that back then as a youth that by putting your allegiance to the PNP, as an example, you were putting your own life in danger?
Yeah, my life was constantly in danger during the 1972 campaign. There's a lot of times that things happened that I had to use my skill to get out of it, you know. It took me years to shake the stigma of this PNP thing. I wasn't really a PNP. I was a follower of Michael Manley, not a follower of the PNP. Matter of fact, to tell the truth, I detest politics. Because when I break down the word politics, it's what it is, you know. People takes parasite, so the people's parasite. I'm not a part of it. I detest politics and politicians, man. Yeah.
I mean, the election that we're talking about, that's an election that Michael Manley was successful in defeating Hugh Shearer. How was life for maybe not yourself as a recording artist, but the everyday Jamaican, maybe someone that's not in the music industry? Was it a tough time back then, do you think?
Yeah, it was really a tough time. I think the one of the guys that helped a lot in the industry to keep it afloat, I can't take it from him, and that was Edward Siaga. He was one of the main guys who understand where we were coming from as a musical nation, and he played a very important part. He himself was a producer. He started out as a producer and then drifted into politics. You know what I mean? So he knows what was happening, and I give it to him. You know, Michael did a lot as well, but Siaga did more in my book.
And back then, I mean, in these early times within your career, how easy was it for you to support your family from a financial point of view?
It was a scratch like a chicken. You know, you get up every day and scratch like a chicken trying to find that little morsel in the ground. You know what I mean? It was tough. You know, I tell you the truth, I don't even like to go back because Jehovah the Almighty has taken me out of it. And, you know, today I survived where I could put one of my kids through university to study music business, to manage me, and put the other three in the industry, and they're doing well as singers and songwriters and performers as well. So I don't want to look back. I mean, if you don't know where you're coming from, you can't know where you're going, but I don't look back. Yeah.
I guess that some of the things that you experienced as a youth yourself and in the early part of your career are almost like life lessons that you can pass on to your children and grandchildren.
Yes, well, like I told them, all I know is music, because I didn't get no chance I didn't have no parental help to send me through school to achieve any other skill. I just stumbled into music business, you know, and Jah said, look, this is a work you have to do, and you're going to do it for me. You're going to sing about me, and every time you open your mouth, you must give me praise and establish what I intend for the world to be. Yeah, because let's face it, man made the world, you know. A lot of Christians feel God made the world. God didn't make no world. Yeah, man made the world. God gave us the earth, and man put the world on the earth. The earth and the world is two different things. The world is airplanes, cars, wars, you know, everything, immoral and moral, mix up everything, you know. Money plus evil equals sin, and it's all these things, you know, that make up the world, you know. The world will go, but the earth will forever be here. Yeah.
The world needs the earth to survive, but the earth can survive without the world.
That's right. Because the concept that God made man in his own image, I will not believe it. Ain't no way I'll believe it. Because if God made man in his own image, how come man so wicked? Is God that wicked? You see what I mean? The half has never been told. I'm trying to find it now.
What sort of age were you when you embraced the teachings of His Majesty?
I was about 16 years old when I was living with my uncle, my auntie's husband, my uncle-in-law, and he was a strict Rasta man. And I learned a lot about Rastafari from him, Ronald Gavin. He's dead now, may his soul find rest, but he actually schooled me a lot into the faith. And, you know, I never deviate from then.
I mean, a lot of people sometimes say that, you know, their family would have been against you embracing the teachings of Rastafari. Did you ever have that resistance or resilience from your family?
I never had a family. I'm a street kid. There was no one there to dictate to me. You know, I go where I go, when I go, and how I go. Nobody tells me what to do. Me and God the Almighty work together, make me who I am. Not people, not family. Well, family, not relatives. I think we're mixing up the two things here. Family is you, your wife, and the children. I'm talking about my uncle, aunt, father, mother, sister. No, I didn't have that.
Going back to the reasoning towards music, 1975 was the year when I think you first started to work with Lee Scratch Perry. What was it like working with Lee Scratch Perry back then?
How do I explain it, man? It was awesome. That's a new word they use to describe good things these days. It was awesome.
It was awesome. Okay.
I'm telling you, man, this guy is different. It's hard to describe Lee Perry. He's a genius with an extra capital G. I mean, let's face it. He's the only human on earth I know that make millions out of madness. Yeah? He plays mad and make millions. You have to give the guy, he's a genius with a capital G.
Okay.
Working with Lee Perry is an experience because you're not just working, you're working, you know. Because you listen to your lyrics, and if he hears anything that doesn't sound rhyme or sound deviate from this topic, he'll call your attention to it and say, you're singing about radio, how you talking about TV? Get back on radio. He's that type of guy, you know what I mean? Yeah.
It's interesting because so many people that we ask about Lee Scratch Perry will say the same as what you have said, the genius tag. And I sometimes wonder, you know, where did he get that skill from to get the best out of, you know, some of the artists that have worked with Lee Scratch Perry. I would go as far as saying that, you know, in their vast catalogues, the work that Lee Scratch Perry did with them is some of their best material.
Yes, because, like I said, when you're in Lee Scratch studio, you're not working alone. You're working alongside with Lee Perry. You have to, because he's a perfectionist. And if he's not perfect, he's not going to put his name to it. So he's there with you. Whether it's your session or his session, his name is on it. If he's the engineer and you're the producer, his name is on it. So he's got to dictate terms with you. This is not going to go out as Lee Perry sounding shitty. It have to be right.
Okay. and he also had the very best in terms of musicians. So, you know, the Barrett brothers, Santa Davis, Chinna, Phil Callender, Bobby Ellis, Tommy McCook. What was it like working with some of these musical greats? You know, people that, you know, are in our reggae history books.
It was good, man. It's a pleasure for me because most of those guys are deceased now. And from Dan Drummond's come all the way down, I can tell you I associate with them right through as being as a street kid. You know, I used to cop weed for Dan Drummond's in them days, you know. Tom McCook, Roland Alfonso, Johnny Moore, all these greats from Scatterlights. I used to associate with them right through. It was a pleasure knowing these guys, I'm telling you. Great drum bagger. Yeah. He plays on the first song I record, I'm Gonna Buy You a Rainbow. He plays drum on it. He's a drummer that Carlton Barrett not copied but emulates. Yeah.
Okay. So that first LP with Scratch was called Revelation Time. Singles like Open the Iron Gate, A Quarter Pound, and of course 3 Blind Mice.
That was my production. I produced that album for a company called Soundtracks Limited that went into bankruptcy. And Lee Perry was the engineer on the thing, and we had like Chinna Smith, quite a few musicians. I don't remember a lot of them. No, Boris Gardner was there too. I never do a session about Boris Gardner and bass. Because in my book, he's the only bass player I know in Jamaica. Two of them, him and Jackie Jackson, who can tune a bass.
Right, okay.
So when he hits a B, you hear a B. You know, so I love to work with him. Yeah. But that album was, I produced it for Soundtracks Limited. And it was called Revelation Time, with a hammer and a sickle on the cover. And they say it's communism. I said, no, the hammer is for building the barn and the sickle is for reaping the corn. That's what it was about. Well, they say it's some Russian thing, which was bullshit, not like that. You know, it was a great album because it turns Open the Iron Gate was the same album, and they just changed the title, and it becomes another big hit out there again.
I mean, back then, when you made a record, quite often the way to actually road test it to see if it was going to be worthy of pressing would be through the dances. So what are your memories of, you know, hearing your music maybe on someone like King Tubby's or something?
Well, I can remember walking behind Bunny Lee with a stack of 45, traveling from dance to dance and play, and I'm hoping that my one will drop in the slot one at a time. You know, it was fun when you do hear they play a little piece of it, you know. Yeah. Sorry, because I'm a new artist, so then I will give you the whole thing, but they give a little piece of it, and if the crowd rock, they'll play a little piece more. It was fun. You walk from dance to dance with the records, you go to the radio station, some of these guys, you have to stick them up for them to play it, you know. I remember Bunny Lee got one guy fired from JVC. He was Jamaica #1 radio, this jockey guy called Ratcliffe Butler. And Bunny Lee gave him a check, and payroll that was against the law, and then he take the stub of the check and take to the station and have him fired. Wow. Yeah.
Do you remember any particular sound systems that were staunch supporters of Max Romeo's music back then? Anyone that you can look back on thinking that particular sound system operator really helped to push my music?
King Tubby's Hi-Fi. Okay. Yeah, I did a song. Me and him and Lee Perry co-produced a song called Three Blind Mice. And he had 19 versions of it playing on him sound. Wow. Yeah. And yeah, Love used to play my song. A lot of songs used to play my songs, you know, in them time. But basically, I don't basically make songs for dancehall. You have to check through my profile and find something where you want to play. I make songs for the lady dusting her furniture and singing along with it and things. You call it household songs. I do household hits, like I'm Nobody's Child and them songs. You know, it's a household thing. Now, if you want to search and find a dancehall thing, you go ahead. There's a lot too that can be used, but I don't really actually do songs for dancehall, to be honest. Yeah.
Okay. 1976 was a very big year for you, wasn't it? Yeah. War in Babylon.
That's right. Yeah, that was a monster year. You know, a lot of things happened for me that year, and a lot of things didn't happen. We are here to talk about War in Babylon album, because the only goodness I got from that album is the opportunity to tour the world on a track called Chase the Devil. But the rest of the story is what it is, a story. It's too big a story to tell. Yeah, that album was a disaster, but it's my best album to date. Yeah.
What makes you say that album was a disaster? Is that just because of the business side of things?
That's what I'm talking about. It's a financial disaster. It's 1976, you say? Yes. And this is 2019? Yes. I'm still waiting on the first royalty statement. Wow.
Something tells me it's not going to happen, right?
Nah. That's charity. I give this charity to Chris Blackwell and Universal. They can have it.
But as you said, some of the songs that were on that particular album, Chase the Devil, War in Babylon, Norman, you know, Stealing, or some of those songs are like, you know, sort of still hit songs that still get played in houses and dances in the UK to this day. And I'm sure that you've done maybe just 1 or 2 tours off the back of that album.
No, not 1 or 2 tours.
I'm joking.
You're crazy. 1 or 2 tours. I mean,
1 or 2,000 tours then.
1 and 2,000. That sounds more like 1 million. So I'm the one who's laughing. Okay. The idea have to be peddling to sell to a CD and shit like that. I just take my mic and go on the stage and I collect 1 million times what they collect. We sell a couple of bloody CD. That's why I say it's charity. They can keep it, man. They didn't do me nothing. They don't break my spirit. They keep the money. I keep my soul. That's it.
That's it. I mean, Chase the Devil, that's been used by quite a few other musical artists as well. Have you ever seen any financial rewards from that, or no?
Whoa, look at this. It's Chase the Devil. This is from Jay-Z. This is from Prodigy. This is from a group from South Africa, one from Australia. I don't remember, but so many groups. They combine, buy this land and build this house.
Right, okay.
This is Chase the Devil.
Okay.
I sent him out of space. He's out there now.
Max, there was a time when you moved away from Jamaica and you spent some time living in New York. What made you make that move?
Political. Okay. 1972, I installed Michael Manley government. We let the poor fall a night. 1974, he was dormant, not forthcoming with the promises he made. I'm walking in the street and people say, "You're one of them, I make me vote for Michael and him now do nothing, you know." I said, "All right, okay. Don't worry, I'm going to let him do something." So I went and wrote this song. You took them out of bondage and they tried to sing with it. No, you took them out of bondage. You sing them songs of love. They tried to sing with it. But now in the desert, they are battered and bruised. They think they are forsaken. They think they have been used. Now, since you are my friend, Joshua, I want you to know, Rasta is watching and blaming you. They want you to forward and start anew. And he sent and called me to Jamaica House, sit me down and said, "Look, I have that song 3 times on one cassette in my car." Them days we were using cassette. It's motivating. It motivates me. I want you to go home now and relax and cool down on the politics songs them now and see what happens. And then all social program come into existence. Land lease project, Jamal, all different type of things start happening. It was because of that song. Now the PNP say I become labor right for singing the song. And the labor right won't get to me from morning.
Right.
So I was right between the devil and the deep blue seas. That's why I run to America.
Okay.
I stayed here for 13 years until all the guys who want to kill me is dead. I come back home. 1989 I got back here. And I'll be here until I die.
See, this is interesting because earlier on in our reasoning, I was asking you about whether you were fearful, and whilst back in 1972 you were fearful, but then things kind of turned up heat a few years down the line.
Yes, things kind of level off after that drama and trauma with No Joshua No. Things kind of, the people realize where I was coming from, and they see the seed that it sows, and they start to reap the benefit from it. So they kind of back off and leave me alone, you know. Yeah.
So that would probably explain the reason why there was probably not so much of a musical output from you up until around about the early 1990s then.
Yeah, I was still recording in America. I was recording, but doing most of my recording for Japan. I was working with Japanese companies. Because I think I did about 5 albums for Takian, which is a Japanese company then. You know, I get linked up with Bulwaki and the Waki's label in New York. And there I was for a few years until, you know, I branch off and start my own Romax thing. Was stolen by Techniques Record. So I changed it to Charmax, and Charmax is happening now. Yeah.
I mean, one of the songs that I remember, I think that you did for Wackies was the birth of reggae music, right?
That's right. It wasn't for Wackies. I did that for the Japanese people.
Okay.
And Wackies released it.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, that was a heavy song. Yeah.
And then there was also another album that you did in the early 1990s, maybe 91, 92 for Jashaka.
Kafara, captain of my ship, yeah, and it was two album I did. There was one called Our Rights as well, yeah, and they did well. Yeah, Shaka did well with them albums.
I mean, I think one thing that I've always realised and noticed is that having been born and raised in the UK, there's always been a strong love for your works.
Yes, because I'm a revolutionary singer. You know, I don't sing about "Darling, I love you." Yeah, I mean, if you check my profile, you'll find a few of those, but it's not my favorite thing. You know, if I want to tell my girl I love her, I wait till I see her later. I don't have to bloody sing. There's too much things in the world to sing about. Right. So I choose to be revolutionary in my songs, and Europeans love it. Yeah. The English people love it too, you know, as well. You know, so yeah.
Okay. Well, we're here in 2019 now. Over these last 55 years that you've been involved in the music industry, you've seen lots of ups and downs, a lot of ups though, and your family are now part of the musical legacy as well. Just share with the viewers today, what are your children doing right now?
Well, Zhanna Romeo, she just did a project. She have a charity going for the Women's Center of Jamaica for abused women and things like that. Okay. She just did a show in Ocho Rios at Margaritaville. They're still squabbling about who to get what. I hope it work out. She have a tour coming up as well. You have Aziz Romeo, and he's going on tour soon as well. And he's have a new album just released. And you have Romax. He changed his name so regular. I don't know what the hell is his name now. But yeah, I still call him Romax. He's into EDM music, and he's just about to release 2 singles as well. Okay. So the whole Charmax family is doing quite well. Yeah.
I mean, one thing that I saw quite recently before coming over to Jamaica was that there was actually a test pressing of a Zhanna Romeo vinyl, and I know the last time when I spoke to her, she did say that she's very, very keen to try and put some of her works out on vinyl. So we're now seeing the fruits of that labour coming through.
That's right. She found a company in England, some little guy that's trying a thing, you know, and she hooked up with him and he's trying to do something. I just pray that it work out, you know.
Okay. One thing that I also need to ask you to close this interview with is videos. So you've been a recording artist for 55 years, and it was only in 2017 that we actually had the very first video for a Max Romeo song, The Farmer's Story. That's right.
Yeah, The Farmer's Story is actually, it's taken from a new album that will be out called Words from the Brave. It's in production right now. Farmer's Story depicts the life of the farmers in Jamaica. You know, they work like hell to achieve nothing because the guys who buy the things from them to sell back, they are the ones who make money. We call them higglers. You know, they have all the big houses, drive the big cars, the farmers still in the little hut. You know, a few of them might rise a little, just a little. So that song is actually calling attention to the world to say, look, the farmer worked very hard for you to eat, and you let the traders pocketing the money. They're not getting none. Something have to be done. You know what I mean? That's what that track is about. And I think there's a couple of other tracks I'm planning on videoing as well. So, yeah, that was the first Max Romeo video after all these years in my career.
And I see it's doing quite well because I think there's over 65,000 views on YouTube.
Yeah, I haven't seen the update, but yeah, it should be because it's a good thing. Yeah, it's a good story actually.
I mean, as an elder, do you check for things like social media and YouTube and Facebook and things, or do you leave that to the family, the children?
Look, my phone is a banger. Let me show you my phone.
This is live and direct. This is Max Romeo's mobile phone.
This is my phone. It's a 3G. This phone this year is 8 years old. Wow. 8 years. I'm not into the phone rip-off thing, man. These guys come from iPhone 1, iPhone 2. It's about 10 now.
It's reached X now.
It's reached X. Yeah. Okay. So what that tells you. And they keep handing down, and things like that. It's a trick. I'm not falling for it. My 3G is 8 years old this year.
I think sometimes what we kind of forget is that a mobile phone should be to make a call, but nowadays more people use it for everything else but making a call.
That's right. You know, it's Facebook, it's YouTube, it's Twitter, it's all kind of things on it, you know. It's good in some sense, but it's bad in some sense because it's breaking up families. A lot of women are despising their husbands because they spend too much time on the bloody phone, you know, following Facebook, you know, listening to gossip, and it's breaking up families. So it has its negative as well. This 3G can't break my family up. Ain't nothing to see other than a number coming up to answer, you know what I mean?
Good. Well, just before we close this interview, I want to give thanks to you and your family for your contribution to the music. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with our viewers before we close off today?
Well, the world is in a state, and we're heading on a stage now. I don't know where, I mean, these governments of today is trying to fulfill Revelation. I don't know where we're going to be, but what I'm saying is to be vigilant, watch your head back. Don't let nobody watch it for you, because we don't know what Trump and Putin are up to. That's all I'm saying, you know what I mean?
Max Romeo, pleasure talking to you today. One love.
It's my pleasure, man. Always my pleasure. Okay.